the Jews
right?
and the Dems
The Jews and the Dems working together.
to in conjunction with one another to come up with a sort of like a starter switch, like you do with your car, to
Okay.
turn these things on. But you personally need to have in your body a certain level of woke.
It's always us just talking about the chuds. You got your.
Sometimes I'd like to talk about the Democrats.
All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Sedition podcast. I'm Nate Brady alongside my co host, Mike Smith.
I am the host, co-host, Mike Smith.
The host, co-host. That's a yeah.
Hope you're all doing very well today.
I'm not doing that well today. How are you doing?
No, I'm doing all right.
I'm just constant.
I do want to hear why aren't you doing well?
I read, I write, but I do a lot of reading, and the reading doesn't make me feel good. That when I was growing up, they told me you should read. You should do a lot of reading, do it, explore. But what I've been reading today, I don't feel good, man.
It's bad.
It's bad. It's all bad out there. It's all bad out there. I think today,
Can I just let me try and dissuade that ever so slightly. Let me hit you with like a little bit of good news before we start.
Before we
get into why you're having such a good
all right. Okay. I don't think we could even have time to get into it, but let's go with this. Give me some good news. Shed some positive light on everything for me.
Jobs report came out.
Oh, the jobs report came out.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's positive. It's good. It's good for the economy. Everything's going well. It says here from NPR, it says economists had expected U.S. employers to have added about 150,000 jobs in September. Instead, they created more than 250,000 in that month. Unemployment rate fell to 4.1% nationally, according to the report released by the Labor Department.
That seems really positive.
Yeah, it's thoughts and prayers to the Fox affiliates who are going to have just trouble spinning this into a negative somehow. But no, it's the same old thing that we've been seeing actually quite a bit throughout the entirety of the Biden presidency. It's just that jobs and growth in the economy have stayed strong. We avoided a recession for those 4 years, and every time we get told that a recession is coming, we get these strong job reports that just show that that's not true.
So, I'll be honest with you. I saw this morning. As you can imagine, where I read too much. I did see the jobs report, and I did see the Fox News reaction, and even the Fox News hosts were like, I can't find any red flags in this. I don't know what to say.
It is, like I said, thoughts and prayers to them. They're having trouble spinning this in the negative, and it is a good thing. I think for the Harris campaign moving forward, obviously you want to be able to have some of that wind in your sails as this like pseudo incumbent. It's sort of hard to talk about the Harris campaign in the context of being like the incumbent coming into the next one, because it's more like a straight up election. It's more like pretending that Biden ran 2 terms and now you have a new Democrat, a new Republican, even though we have an old Republican. But she is the vice president. She is part of this cabinet. She should be credited somewhat. I mean, as far as anyone in the cabinet should be credited with the jobs report.
But I mean, if the Republicans want to lay any blame on her for things, then they have to also lay the credit. If they want to lay blame on her for the way that they believe this current administration has handled the border, for instance, then you have to also lay credit where credit is due. And this jobs report is huge. I mean, like you said, unemployment dropped to 4.1%, and it was lower than expected. I think they expected the number to come in at 4.2%. Like you said, they expected 150 million. It came in at 150,000 came in at 250,000, which was far surpassing the economists' forecasts. So this is huge. I mean,
Yeah, I
private
think
education and health services were added jobs, healthcare added jobs, leisure and hospitality is adding jobs, construction adding jobs. I mean, what?
yeah, restaurants, retailers, construction. I mean, all of the industries that you expect to really cause a booming economy because it feeds each other. So all these sectors doing well is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
there's certainly challenges remain. There's still a lot of, inflationary pressures and
yeah, yeah. I mean,
uh
inflation being down doesn't mean that everybody's problems around inflation, like especially fiscal uh, challenges, they don't immediately go away. But inflation being down means that they're not going to get worse this month. In that same vein, you're not going to see prices spike at the grocery store. The price of anything go up just ridiculously when you're not expecting it. Your dollar's going to go either fall a little bit farther or the same. So that's always a good note to come in on.
yeah, yeah. And I'll say that even the stock market obviously reacted positively. I mean, most people don't really give a crap about the day to day of the stock market, but for those folks that we were already saying thoughts and prayers to at Fox News, I mean, they pay attention to that every day, and of course, um, record breaking. Just a record breaking stock market under this administration. And they wanted to call it Donald Trump's stock market. They wanted to call it, if the stock market's doing well, that means the economy's doing well when he was president. And what? Now it doesn't, So,
Yeah.
hey.
Another thing to point out as well is that we've been seeing over the past few months the Fed has been cutting interest rates, which is a good sign following what we saw that crazy June, or maybe before that. It was pushing like 9% or something. Yeah, June 22 it was at 9%, I'm finding. And it's been coming down and coming down, and all of the economists, all of the people who are paid to know these things say all these cutting interest rates are going to cause an economic blah blah blah. It's going to be this recession. We're going to have this trouble. And they had paused, if you recall, this year. They paused the interest rates. They left them like steady for several months because they were like, we're afraid of this recession thing. And when it didn't come, they're like, we're cutting them again. And it dropped down to 2.5 last month, which is pretty low. I remember a few years ago, this was before the recession, obviously. I remember seeing, 2% was pretty much the Fed's rate, and you could go and see, loan providers and things like that getting it to like 2.10, 2.15. But I mean, being back to 2.5 last month is crazy. And then you see this
2.5. I'm sorry, hold on. Where is two? What is 2.5%? This is news to me.
2.5%. This is Federal Reserve interest rates. Here, I put a link over for you.
Okay. Because I never think about it in terms of the Federal Reserve interest rates, but I'm always looking at the.
You're looking at market rates.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but a lot of economists will point to the Fed's
right
rates
that drives
as sort of like direction. Yeah, it drives the way that the market rates turn, the way that house buying ebbs and flows, and in turn there's an interesting field of study where they follow unemployment, and it's against like federal interest rates, and they note that when federal interest rates change going up or down, unemployment rates tend to follow that with a little bit of lag, which is kind of interesting. Like about a month or maybe a little more behind than jobs tend to change in the same direction. But this is actually sort of going against the trend, and we're seeing a job growth of September that was crazy big after they did a cut that most economists said was not necessary and might be risky. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that the chuds that I'm always arguing with don't understand is that it takes some time for the policies and the actions of an administration to really affect the economy. And this is one of the major problems, especially in the US, especially with the 4-year election cycles, is a lot of times you don't see the results of the
Your
actions of an
administration.
administration
Yeah.
until after that administration is gone. So, Donald Trump mismanages a global pandemic, the US part of the pandemic, global inflation spikes because of market disruption. And then Trump is like, all right, adios, see ya. And then suddenly, the Biden Harris administration is dealing with a nightmare, right? And it took
Yeah.
years for them to start turning things around. And I will say, also things are turning around globally. Okay, so it's not all Biden Harris administration. A lot of it has to do with global inflation coming down, global markets healing from the disruption of COVID. But it's important to note that it is not day one I take office means, oh my God, the jobs report on the same month that I take office is a reflection of my administration, because that's just not the way it is. And
Right.
so,
Both parties will play it that way if
right,
it's good, and they'll blame the other guy if it's
right,
bad, no
exactly.
matter what happened, no matter what the reality is,
Yeah,
obviously.
but my point being that it is nature is returning, right? Things are healing. We're definitely going in the right direction. There are still hurdles, but things are moving in the right direction again. And boy, we do not want to return to the previous administration, which we're talking 200% tariffs on John Deere tractors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we can't go back to that kind of just inane nonsense.
No, I completely agree. Um, and it's sort of, I think that segues nicely into the next thing that I wanted to bring up as another piece of good news. The thoughts and prayers people, the same Fox pundits that I was mentioning before, they were wringing their hands and they were salivating over the idea of this longshoreman strike. They were ready to start telling people, do you remember your rationing toilet paper and you couldn't find eggs in the store, and oh my God, it's going to get so bad. So there was a strike from the union of dock workers at the East and Gulf Coast ports in the United States, right? So the International Longshoremen's Association signed off to strike because they weren't getting fair wages. And so everybody's worried about product and produce and a lot of other things sitting in tankers off the coast instead
Right.
of
They were
reaching
already
consumers.
buying up toilet paper at my local Costco. Like,
Of course they were.
right.
Okay, so today they've reached a deal. They are going to keep working until January 15th. The union has negotiated with the powers that be. They demanded a 77% raise over 6 years, but I think that was negotiated down to high 60s, 66, 67, something like that. And so it's another one of those situations, I think, where neither party got exactly what they wanted, but they all got a little bit of something.
That's
and
always
they
the case in these.
and they're going to keep moving. And I'll point out that this time around, nobody had to come in and break up the strike. It just came down to negotiations between the union and the.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be pressure from political figures and all that stuff, but like I was thinking back to the railway workers and their strike that they were running, and Biden basically came in and said, get back to work. But this time, no, I mean, this was a more amicable between all parties
Good
negotiation. They struck for like 1 day, maybe 2, and then they reached an agreement. They can move forward. So it's like a short-term deal, but it's one that keeps everybody at the table. So that's another piece of good news that the Fox pundits are crying about, because they don't get to complain about people not having toilet paper and all that.
Yeah, and I don't even, by the way, it's so stupid because, I'm on Facebook too, right? And I've got my local neighborhood Facebook group and everyone's like at the Costco, oh, the toilet paper's in, you got to go get it. And it's so fucking, because first of all, I don't even think toilet paper was even a thing on the table in this particular strike. So it's ridiculous. But I will say, thank you for these 2 items. For shedding a little light on my day here. It is, by the way, I think I read this morning, that strike would have cost the U.S. economy $4.5 billion per week
Oh
of
yeah.
the strike. So
Oh yeah.
so again, just I don't know if the Biden Harris administration had a lot to do with talking to the U.S. Maritime Alliance or the union or anything like that. But again, just another positive indicator for our economy. It looks like there's a conditional offer of that 62% wage increase. I mean, these are all positive signs for the
Yeah.
economy.
And I
So
want to point out, it's like you said, but I do want to call it out because I think it's important that you need to think about who's running the administration when this sort of thing happens, right? Because you've got Biden and Harris behind the helm at the moment, and the Democrats leading the charge, and they're pushing negotiations, and they're trying to make these things work for everybody because it's, a rising tide raises all ships. But imagine if Trump was president when they're going to do these strikes. I mean, you've read his rhetoric about striking in recent weeks, and he would have come down there and he would have just fired people. He doesn't have the authority, but he would have just been like, "You're fired. You're fired."
oh, of
He
course,
fired
of
everybody.
course. He would have turned
And
to one of his buddies and said, "Hey, could you run this thing?" And the guy would have said yes, and he would have, "Okay, you're in charge now." Like, it's
Yeah,
just,
and he'd tout it as a big victory,
Right.
and then everybody relying on these, like I said, products, produce, whatever it is just going to end up hurting because none of this stuff's going to get done. So, I mean, who you pick, who you put into the administration matters, and how they treat workers, how they treat negotiation between Americans is very important. And so I'm feeling good.
okay.
So there's my
Okay.
uplift for you, Nate.
I'll give
Now
you.
bring me back down. Bring me back
No,
down.
no, no. You know what?
I'm up on cloud 9 right now.
No,
Come get me.
I'm gonna keep the trend going. Actually, I'll go with some good news from yesterday.
You got good news?
I
There's
got
some good news.
I got good news from yesterday. Do you know about Tina Peters? You have to know about Tina Peters, right?
I may have heard the name before.
So Tina Peters, I know it kind of all started around 2021. Tina Peters is the former Mesa County clerk in Colorado that was, charged with conspiracy to commit criminal impersonation and misconduct and hiring people from the My Pillow guys. Like security
Mike
team,
Lindell.
Mike Lindell
My
you don't have
hero.
to say his name. You just can say the My Pillow guy. And was hired them to hack into the Dominion voting machines to kind of pretend that there was election fraud. So she really either believed in Donald Trump's conspiracy or wanted it to be true and was going to do anything to make sure that it was true.
Okay.
She had her day in court yesterday.
Now, really quick, because
Okay.
I'm not super familiar here,
Okay.
but you mentioned Dominion, and it made me think back to the lawsuit Dominion filed, a civil suit
Right.
against the Fox News Corporation, which they famously won almost $1 billion or something.
Yeah.
So was this a civil suit from Dominion?
No,
or
this
what?
was a
was a
criminal
criminal
case
suit.
that had actually brought. I think it was brought by Mesa County, and it has nothing to actually do with Dominion at all.
She was hacking them, but otherwise it's unrelated.
And not even hacking them. I mean, they were literally just breaking into the machines, trying to mess with the imaging of them, just trying to fake that votes were being swapped. Like if you voted for Trump, it was switching to Biden. So no, I don't think they actually were able to prove any hacking efforts. She was really just trying to forge what these machines were doing, right? So
Just good old fashioned lying.
Just good old fashioned lying and tampering with these machines. So she had her day in court yesterday.
So she had all this evidence that she's ready to present.
It didn't go well. So first of all, she had a judge, Matthew Barrett, who was not having any of this MAGA conspiracy crap, right?
Okay.
So yesterday was sentencing. She was found guilty on 7 of the 10 counts, including 4 felonies. And And yesterday she had sentencing, and she had her character witnesses come, and you know how they give that, hey, you know, she's a good person, she whatever.
Yeah.
She gets up there, and you know, instead of
As
showing
a character witness to herself, or as like
yeah,
closing statements, or what?
no, it's not a closing statement, although she treated it as such. You know, the judge will give you, you know, but before I sentence you, you have the right to address me and the
So this is
court.
like usually where
Yeah,
people throw themselves on their sword. They
this
say,
is where they say before, you know, before you go deliberate and sentence me, you know, I'm
"I'm
here's how
very sorry for the
remorseful I am.
crimes I
Yeah,
committed."
exactly that.
Okay,
Exactly,
okay.
right? So instead of doing that, which is what any normal person would do, knowing that it's too late. You've been
But
found
she's
guilty.
already, so at this point, she's been found guilty,
This is Pat. Yeah, this
and
she's
now
been
we're at
found guilty.
sentencing.
Well,
So
this is sentencing. This
like,
is
there's not, you can't change anybody's mind by giving the world's greatest speech.
yeah. She was
Still
found.
guilty.
She was found
Okay.
guilty by a jury in August. So this has
Oh,
already been
that's,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, this is
done
done.
and paid for.
This is done and paid for. She comes up with binders. Okay, she's got her binders. She starts going through all the reasons. She does one thing. She does one snide thing where she says something about the you know, the election and all these reports, and she says you know, the judge says something and she says good, so you understand. You know it's true. And the judge loses it on her. Like, don't, how dare you put it into the record that I agree with you, that I think any of this is truthful. And he starts going off on her like, you are the most defiant person I have ever seen in this courtroom. You're a charlatan. He goes on, and then he brings the hammer down. He throws the whole book at her.
All of the, yeah, every book he could find.
All of the books he throws at her. He ends up giving her 8.5 years in prison and 6 months in county jail for a total. He wants to make sure, he specifically wanted 6 months in Mesa County jail because of how she
Because of where it was.
how
Yeah.
she affected her community in Mesa
Okay.
County. And so he
But
gave her.
she lives there? I mean, I assume she's like,
You know, I'm not sure, but
okay.
she was because there was a lot of talk of her being like remote from Texas while she was doing her duty as the Mesa County clerk in Colorado. It was very strange. So I'm actually not sure where she's from.
Okay.
So I mean, I spoiled it already, right? She got 9 years. She did ask for leniency because she does have a magnetic mattress.
Okay.
You know, she's got a special sleeping
That's a
setup.
condition?
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't heard of that condition.
No, I don't know. I don't
Is
know.
she
If
magnetic and she has to like sleep on the mattress and it keeps her on it, or
as I understand, there are these grounding mattresses that people use, like you
man,
plug
grounding.
into
Look that up.
the
grounding
wall.
mattress?
And I don't know if this is the same that she was talking about, but yeah, you plug like the sheets or the mattress or something into the wall, and it's supposed to ground you, whatever the heck that means. You're seeing
Oh
it
my
right now,
God.
right? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
It's real.
Jeez, and they're not cheap.
They're not
I mean,
cheap.
you can get little like mattress pads. You want to sleep on it like a dog pad or something, but like someone will sell you a grounded mattress for $6,000.
Yeah, that's very kind of them. The judge did not.
He didn't see it that way.
He didn't see it that way. Yeah.
Well, maybe, if she's on good behavior, she can bring the mattress into the prison, the jail.
Maybe after a few years, but probably
Okay.
not until she gets out. So she's got 9 years there.
So she's
3
going cold
years-
turkey.
3 years probation. So I'm sure while she's on probation, she can start a GoFundMe. Maybe somebody will buy her. Because I'm sure, I don't know. I don't know what happens to your stuff. I'm not a criminal. So I don't know what happens when you, maybe one of our listeners, I'm not saying our listeners are criminal, but maybe,
Criminals, I can tell.
well, maybe they are. But maybe one of our listeners, criminal or non-criminal, can tell us what happens to you. I don't know what happened. Like, let's say she's living in an apartment, right?
Right,
Like
right.
she can't pay her rent anymore. Like she's going to
No.
jail for 9 years. Where does her stuff go?
I think you got to put it somewhere.
Do you gotta put it somewhere, or you gotta sell it, right? Like that's just
you
gone.
got to sell it. You got to put it somewhere. A lot of people who, this happens. I've known people who this have happened to, and their stuff either goes back to their family who hold on to it, or they put it in a storage. Pretty common because storage is,
right.
affordable by and large. If you want to keep your expensive magnetic mattress, then got to put it in storage. Or, you know, if you've got family nearby, maybe they'll hold on to it for you, and then when you get out.
Well, her husband divorced her a couple of years ago. That was
Okay.
because of the libs. From
That was
what she said,
because he was a lib, or because
I don't know, because
the
of
libs
the libs. As far as
brainwashed him? Oh.
yeah, and then he died, which was probably also because of the libs. So I don't know.
Oh,
I
no.
don't. She doesn't sound like she has anyone, but she did meet Trump. Trump said very nice things about her.
Well, that's good.
You know, and apparently she also had some connections to Mike Lindell as well.
Now I gotta ask: was this a felony, like a federal case, or was this a state case?
No, this was a those were
This is felony,
yeah,
conspiracy,
four
and everything
felonies.
else.
There were four felonies, three other charges. I don't have the whole list in front of me, but
So
yeah,
Trump can pardon her when he gets there.
when he gets where
The White House.
you're trying to bring me back down. Is
I'm
that what you're
sorry.
trying? Is that what you're trying to do? We just had
No.
three
I'm sorry.
positive stories in a row.
I have a quote from
Okay, bring it
Ken
on, bring it
Ken
on.
White.
Okay.
Ken White, lawyer extraordinaire, known as Pope, had obviously online. He says, "This seems like a lot." And he's talking about how many years she was sentenced for. He says, "This seems like a lot, but I just want to make it clear for those of you who may ever be clients that you can absolutely dare a judge to put you in jail for longer, and most of them will totally do it."
Yeah.
Just sort of speaking to the point of like, you come in there, you want to play games, win funny prizes. That's,
Yeah. F around and find out, basically, right? she would not stop effing around. Even after, I think I saw a video like 2 days before her sentencing where she's like, I'm not going to jail. What are you, stupid? You know,
Oh, yeah?
she's like, I'm not going to jail.
the hubris caught up.
Yeah, and then she did say she is during her, I don't know, what do you want to call it? It certainly wasn't pleading with the judge. Her closing statements or whatever, she did say that she is a child of God and God would not be very pleased with somebody trying to silence her. So
All right.
it didn't work out for her.
That
It
one
work
didn't
out.
work. That I was
Yeah.
going to use that. I felt like that was a.
You thought that would have worked, right?
You just keep that in the back pocket. You can get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm happy to switch gears now. I think we had three good story. You could call them three good stories in a row, right?
I have more about the messing around and finding out if you'd like.
Oh, I'll take that. Okay, let's keep going on that path.
So okay, have you ever heard of Shell Shock 2?
Shell shock. Oh wait, why do I know this?
Shell Shock 2, not Shell Shock 1, Shell Shock 2.
Well, if I haven't heard of the first one, I haven't heard of the second one. But this
Okay,
sounds familiar.
yeah, it's a music event.
Oh, are you going to tell me the Kyle Rittenhouse thing?
I'm going to tell you the
Okay, let's hear it. I read a little bit about this morning.
Shell Shock 2 is it's a musical event. It's a like a metal rock style event
Okay.
they were going to be holding in Florida, I want to say. I'm looking for Florida and I'm just not seeing it, but I believe it was in Florida. And so they had headliners who, if you follow, I mean, if you're into metal, if you're into like that style of music, they had a lot of headliners that you should, be aware of. They had Slipknot. They've got their headliner was called Evergreen Terrace. They're like famous in that genre. They had a bunch of like really good bands that you've if you're into this is you would have heard of it. And so they lined up this whole event. They got all these big name bands to agree to come and play, and then they signed up Kyle Rittenhouse to come and be their like face of the event. And every band pulled out.
Every single band.
Every band. It started with Evergreen Terrace pulling out. Slipknot followed suit, and then it was basically one after the other, just going like, "We don't want to be part of this."
Wow.
I love it so much. And at first when they just lost Evergreen Terrace, the organizers were like, well, you got to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and we don't want this to become a political thing. And then as everybody starts stepping out, they're like, well, we may have messed up. And I'm looking for the quote here. It says, even after they offered to pull Kyle from the event, They discovered several associate entities they just didn't agree with, and so everybody pulled out of the event. It's beautiful. I love to see that. It's
Wait a minute. You got to help me out here. Shell Shock 2, as I'm reading, because I'm catching up. I mean,
yeah,
so the listeners know, Mike and I, we work day jobs, right? Like we cannot, go with our producers and do a ton of prep for the show. We like to catch each other a little off guard, with these stories, right? And
it's
just
more
have
fun
an
when
honest,
we learn together.
yeah, have an honest, normal discussion about things that are going on. Not come at you with, these prepared kind of things. So I am reading right now a little bit about Shell Shock 2. It was billed as a PTSD charity and awareness event.
It was, yes.
And they thought Kyle Rittenhouse was the guy?
Yeah, it was to support philanthropic events for veterans, PTSD awareness, child poverty, and more. And they were going to promote Kyle Rittenhouse as a celebrity at the event. Yeah, that was their choice, and it was not a good choice, I think.
Holy cow!
My favorite from this article that I found is in a response from a podcast. I'm not going to name the podcast because we don't need to be dogpiling. But their response has been quote, but we're prepping. The liberal mob attempted to destroy Shell Shock, but we will not allow it. This is now about more than a concert. This is a war of ideology.
Of course. They're going to find a way to make more money from this than you could ever imagine. Okay?
They're definitely going to do, the normal Republican game plan. They're going to bring Kyle onto Fox News and Newsmax and every right-wing nut job media thing. Just get him on there and have him discuss about how he's being canceled because of his love for the country or whatever they're going to spin it as. But it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that I don't think the guy can come into polite society without 40 chuds on either side of him without getting just harassed and booed. And and he can't really do anything organically anymore. Like this was clearly like somebody reached out to him to be part of this concert, and he had nothing better to do, because this isn't like the biggest concert in the world. Like, let's be honest, this isn't Taylor Swift. This isn't any of the big bands. This is a bunch of like metal bands that we've heard of. They were there in the like early 2000s. I know of many of them. They're fine. And they were like, let's bring Kyle Rittenhouse on. Why not? It's a concert. And then everybody's like, no, we're not dealing with him. And then they just left.
That is wild to me. I mean, I do appreciate, from what I'm reading here, Evergreen Terrace said, hey, listen, we play shows, not political rallies. So, hey, I mean, that's great.
That's one of those things that I think is it's a piece of nuance that's missed a lot these days, is that even if you agree with certain things, you can say you're trying to turn this music event, something that I do for my living, something that I'm passionate about, into a political thing that I agree with it, but I don't want to do that. I want my music and my shows and my fandom to be separate from that. And I think that's really good. I don't know their political affiliations. I don't know their beliefs, but just being able to say on either side, being like, I don't want this to become a political thing. I'm just trying to play music for my fans and just get this nonsense out of here. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, all right. Are you done throwing the good stuff at me?
I'm as good as I'm gonna feel. Bring me down.
I'm gonna throw a wacky thing at you. Okay.
Wacky's.
I'm gonna throw a little wacky. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good wacky. It's what the hell is going on in this goddamn country wacky. Do you remember the guy Mark Robinson? You know that guy that we've talked about a few times?
I vaguely recall Mark.
Yeah, you think he calls himself a black Nazi?
That's the way I remember it.
And he is running.
He's denying it. But not loudly enough.
Right. And you understand that he is running as a Republican governor. So that's a pretty high office, right? In politics, right?
Yeah, governor of state.
Pretty
Yeah.
pretty high up there. What if I told you there was another, I guess, black Nazi, if you will, that's actually running as the Republican candidate, the GOP candidate in the Senate?
In the United States
In the
Senate,
United States Senate.
not a state Senate.
In the United States Senate. There
Another
is
self-proclaimed black Nazi. I don't know what's happening.
he is, let me tell you, his name is if for those that don't know about him,
Let's hear it.
is Royce White. Okay, that's Royce White. And let's just
He's an American basketball player.
Yeah, former basketball player. Let me read a 2022 tweet that has since resurfaced, where he claims the bad guys won in World War II. I mean, what the hell is going on right now?
I don't know, but that quote's hard to follow.
If you look closely, he says, he goes on to say in the tweet, if you look closely, you see the link between liberalism and communism in the Allied forces.
I really think that we need to spend at least one episode talking about the United States education system and how it's failing our students. If you can come out of learning anything about World War II thinking this, then we're doing a disservice to the youth in our country.
Donald Trump just said in an interview today, like an interview that happened today, that Kamala Harris is a Marxist, and he said, sorry for all of you that don't know what a Marxist is. I guess I'll just say communist. And I went,
okay. They've been saying they've been using those two words interchangeably for years.
Sure,
so I'm sort of numb to that.
Yeah. And you could argue, it's not even an argument. Those ideologies are very, very similar to each other. But they are distinct ideologies, socialism and communism. But nonetheless, these people aren't learning history anymore. And I admit I didn't like history when I was a kid, but as I grew up, I actually liked history. I liked learning about it. I liked listening to it. But I was able to discern when somebody is just standing at a podium and pointing to everyone else and going, they're all Nazis. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking? We have 150 million Nazis in our country. Did you know that?
It's a little high. That's too high.
And then you turn around and call yourself, I'm very confused.
It is strange. They use it as a sword and shield on in both. It depends on what day it is, right? If the Nazis are bad today, then they're going to call the Democrats Nazis, and if the Nazis are doing the right thing by them, then they're going to be Nazis tomorrow.
So in any event, there is good news. He is facing off against incumbent Senator, we all know, Amy Klobuchar, and he has basically no chance. Royce White. Yeah.
I did a little digging here, and I have some things here that suggest sort of not going to go well for him in that campaign.
Okay, give me what you got.
So, Mother Jones did an article on him.
Very left-leaning, Mother Jones. So
yeah,
okay.
Back in 22, and they interviewed everyone who's ever met him.
Okay, everyone. They got them all. Okay.
They got his family. They got his friends.
Okay.
They interviewed political pundits, or not political pundits, I'm sorry, campaign staffers and things like that. But the most damning quote, I think, is from Royce White's grandfather. He says, quote, "There's no way I can support my grandson supporting the GOP, and in essence, Trump," end quote. So I mean, when you don't got Papa there,
Yeah,
it's not going to work for you.
yeah. If Mima and Peepaw aren't on board, you're probably already. It's yeah.
Yeah,
It's no
if
good.
you're too Republican for Grandpa,
Yeah.
it's not looking good.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking at a poll here. Where was it? It was this was from CNN. It looked like 50% Klobuchar, 41% white, and 8% undecided. So of course, there's a chance that all
yeah,
8% somehow swing to a self-proclaimed black Nazi. But of course, this is in Minnesota, and Minnesota is expected to go heavy Dem, and of course, with Waltz on the ticket and all the down ballot voting in Minnesota that will happen this cycle. I don't think we have anything to worry about, but certainly a worrying trend that seems to be appearing in, in
yeah.
politics
No,
lately.
I agree. I mean, and the other thing about white I'm finding is that most of the U.S. Um, representatives from Minnesota aren't willing to go and stump with him. They're not willing to be seen with him. I'm finding this from MPR, not NPR, Mr. PR News,
Okay.
uh, which I actually haven't heard of before, but apparently it's a Minnesota editorial, and they have people quoted as saying that he's considered sort of toxic to the Republican Party in the state.
Okay.
So
Good. Good.
people aren't willing to campaign with him or fundraise with him or any of that stuff. So he's down on money and he's down on allies. So my thinking is that he's not got a good shot against Miss Klobuchar.
I mean that's great, and I'm happy that with Mark Robinson as well. It seemed like the GOP, the local GOP there, as well as kind of Trump was trying to distance himself. That's pretty amazing that that's going on.
I agree.
So
I'm going to say something I think is a little polarizing, but I think that we should be able to agree on this.
okay, I'll see. I'll see. We can argue on anything.
I don't think that any American should vote for a Nazi.
Wow, that is a bold statement. I don't think I can even tweet that out because I think the backlash would be incredible.
Well, too bad. Tweet it out.
Okay, I'll tweet it out. I'll tweet it out. Speaking of tweets, that's a good segue into maybe just a little lightning round of other things that are going on.
Yeah.
Recently, Marjorie Taylor Greene, everybody's
that's
favorite, and MTG. I think that's one of your favorite people. She once again tweeted, and I'm going to ask you what this means. Maybe you can help me understand this.
Right.
I've got it up on the screen here. Yes, they can control the weather. It's ridiculous for anyone to lie and say it can't be done. So I have a few questions here.
Okay. Yes.
This is obviously coming on the backs of Hurricane Helene, and there's some undertones here. This is some subtweeting here that this has to do with the Democratic Party and controlling hurricanes and wiping out probably Republican voters. I mean, I'm speculating.
Okay, so
go ahead. Explain.
Occam's razor.
Okay.
I'm just asking the questions. To what end? Like you said, we're decimating Republican strongholds in swing states?
Sure. North Carolina, I think.
North Carolina? Okay.
Florida, though? I don't know.
Again, I said this a few days ago when we were taking a look at the projection map, but I don't think Florida's in play. I mean, you take out a few million registered Republicans in Florida, maybe it's in play, but
you meant that very hypothetically with controlled weather.
I think you can drop hypothetical here. If the FBI is going to come and knock on my door because they think I've got the reins to the weather machine to control the hurricane to take it after Florida, I mean, I'm happy to have that conversation.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll see you in 3 months. I'll go down there with you in January for the House committee hearing on Mike Smith controlling the weather with his weather machine.
If they take me into a committee meeting, I'm going to bring my headset, I'm going to bring my microphone, and I'm going to set up on the desk as if we're doing the podcast. And every now and then, I'm just going to look to the back of the room and ask Nate a question. And I'm going to see how many contempt of court.
Contempt of Congress, right? I don't think it matters.
Contempt of Congress. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in Gitmo for so long.
It's gonna be a long time. So can I ask you? So who is they in this situation? Yes, they can control the weather. I'm always fascinated by this because is somehow Democrats in the government have all of this incredible power, but Republicans don't have access to this stuff?
We always, you and I wish this. We wish that we had the power to this, but pushing that aside for a moment, we have to remember the source of who actually said this, right?
Okay,
so this is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah,
she's using they to drum up connotations of.
I mean, she means Jewish
everything.
people, right?
She means the Jewish. Yeah, okay. She means the Jews. Okay. That's exactly, because we all remember she famously said that there's a Jewish space laser that's the Democrats control to, I don't know, zap people. We don't zap people.
Yeah.
But if we do control it, we're playing it real close to the chest and we're just not using it yet.
Yeah, it's too why. I mean,
again, I mean, maybe that's the idea, is that we need to get. Maybe we were using the space laser. Hear me out.
Yeah.
And that's like the first step in the weather control system.
Oh, sure. So right now we can't get it exact, right? It's just we're creating hurricanes, but we can't predict yet their path and control.
We're working it. That right? has to be it.
So this is still beta stage Jewish space laser stuff.
To control the weather.
To control the weather, right?
Yes.
And this is a government program that only the Democrats are allowed to run, or is this a secret?
I don't know the specifics. Okay. I think that's like clearance level. You'd have to you'd have to be able to access Mar-a-Lago's bathroom to be able to know the answers.
Oh, right, to get those documents. Sure.
Right, but I think that there is probably something at play there that makes it so that only when the Democrats are in power, they're the ones with the
I'm always
the Republicans haven't used it yet.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by people who say that Donald Trump is the greatest, strongest president. And then the things that they claim happened while he was president. The Democrats stole the election. The Democrats are causing hurricanes with space lasers. The Democrats are cheating. How are all these things happening with one of the strongest, most capable men?
I have a theory.
Okay.
They've used their scientific capabilities.
Yep. The Dems.
The Jews and the Dems.
The Jews and the Dems working together.
To in conjunction with one another, to come up with a sort of like a starter switch, like you do with your car, to turn these things on. But you personally need to have in your body a certain level of woke to be able to turn it.
You need
it won't respond.
Like it won't open.
It just won't do anything.
Oh, it's no. I get this. Let me see if I can make the correct analogy. I'm at the North Pole. But if I have no believe in me, if I don't have enough believe, I can't see Santa's workshop.
I think that it's the same sort of thing at play.
It's the same. Somebody needs to make that movie. I mean, Netflix will buy that script just on this conversation right here. Just the woke opens up the secret, the secret underground.
Canonically woke is the same power that powers the North Pole.
The North
Santa
Pole.
Claus
Little elves come out. They're the Jewish space laser.
Could you imagine just how bad the Republicans or the right would just melt down if we claimed Christmas as woke? Like if the left came out and they're like, Christmas is woke now. There's nothing you can do about it.
Man,
it's woke.
It's hard because we have that thing where we really like to be welcoming to other people and other religions, and we do that happy holidays thing. Yeah, so it'd be really hard for us to take over, the war on to win the war on Christmas. Would be really it's difficult. I think it's pretty close to lost at this point. I will say I am not a Christian, and I celebrate Christmas. Do you celebrate Christmas?
I put a tree up and we sing the songs. We do the American Christmas stuff.
Right. So you don't sing the Jesus songs, though. You sing
I sing White Christmas.
Okay. And Jingle Bells.
Bing Crosby and those
guys. Sure. Baby.
I'm not down with the Christianity side of things. Just
okay.
I don't have a problem with it.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying I'm very during the holidays, I'm very welcoming to happy holidays, this and that.
Yeah.
Somebody says Merry Christmas to me, I don't say Happy Holidays back. I say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, like nothing wrong with that. If somebody
No.
says Happy Hanukkah to me, well, then I would, I'd say, oh, Happy Holidays. I can't say that.
I say Happy Hanukkah.
Do you say Happy Hanukkah? Okay,
Yeah.
you were allowed to do that.
Yeah, I grew up with not a lot, but a few Jewish friends who I would go and celebrate their holidays with them.
But I mean, I'm learning now today, as you told me. I'm just learning about the handshake deal between the Jews and the Democrats.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm probably allowed to say that too. So since
you got to put in the work. You gotta meet some Jewish people. You got to work your way, make sure that we understand each other, and we're gonna work toward eventual planetary control via space lasers and weather. And as long as we're on the same page of like, we both need to be in power, then we're good.
Okay, this really went off the rails. So I think this is a great place to end the show. It was a good show today. We went over a lot of different things. Although, Mike, do you have anything else? You have
I loved
anything?
it, actually. I just really like that we had some upbeat stories and some fun for the week. And I felt like
it felt like a holiday episode.
It felt like a holiday episode.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm really excited now for the holiday episodes. If this is a little preview of what's coming in November and December for a Blue Sedition podcast, I'm really excited. Okay, well, I don't know. As always, hit that like and subscribe button and throw us in your top 8, or I don't know how. Ring the bell. We're still learning how to do the thing. Yeah, do all
the podcast things.
Do the things that you do on your podcast app that makes it look like we're kind of good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see everybody next time. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, dissent is patriotic.
Until next time, this is the Blue Sedition podcast, signing off.